こんにちは。E&B オーディオテクニックのブースへお越しいただきましてありがとうございます。
こんにちは。こんにちは。Thank you. It's the last demo. There's been so many of these, right? There's so much noise. There's so much lights and blinking, flashing video screens. I think I'm ready for like a whole weekend of digital detox. Maybe drink less, sleep more. It's been so much fun this week. Uh-oh, no translation.
Yeah, give it a second.
Uh-huh. It's great. You'll enjoy my presentation even more if you don't understand what I'm saying. Enough of you understood to laugh. That's a good start. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. The computers are great when they work. Before I start, I just wanted to say thank you to my colleagues here in the Japan office who have been wonderful all week, great hosts in helping me pick all the best food, all the best booze, all the best friends.
Yep.
Uh-huh. Hi. I travel the world talking about soundscape examples. I live in the United States and have been working on soundscape in North, Central, and South America for the last 8 years. Now, even though I live in the United States, I work with our product management team in Germany, which affords me a wider travel, including here in Japan. I live on airplanes and in demo rooms, and so I really appreciate you coming to this one today. I have some examples of soundscape applications, a wide range of uses for different types of users, because the beauty of soundscape is that it does so much. But that also means it's hard to describe what it is, and examples work best. The first one is something very common in North America and in my home, which is a contemporary church. Casas Church, located in Arizona, they utilize a Soundscape 180 system. That is to say, a soundscape system without surround sound speakers. Speakers across the front of the stage allow for proper imaging at where the show is happening. It expands the sweet spot, allowing everybody in the audience to share the same experience. This differs from a traditional stereo system because your experience with stereo is dictated by where you sit in comparison to the loudspeakers. With the Soundscape 180 system, we're rendering every signal across all speakers, but in a way that redirects your attention to the desired position regardless of which speakers you're in front of. This is complements of delay processing, where we get each performer and each microphone with a unique delay time to every loudspeaker. So even as I move back and forth and my sound follows me, it's still coming out of all loudspeakers, but in a way where you localize to where I'm standing. So this is great when you talk about spoken word and a message, eliminating the PA system, allowing the audience to really connect with the person on stage and a verbal message. This is also nice when we mix music. We get to have a wider sound that transmits more accurately to more people. This means that you get more clarity and depth with less work on the mixing console. You need less equalization, you need less compression, less effects to achieve a transparent sound. And one of the biggest reasons why we sell these types of systems into churches in North America is because the PA system is a higher quantity of smaller speakers in a way that doesn't dip down into sight lines. So the production manager here says that not only does audio prefer soundscape, but the video and lighting departments prefer soundscape as well, just because of the different type of speaker deployment, which is less of a barrier for those other departments.
今のところニックが米国アリゾナ州にあるカサスチャーチっていう教会の事例をよく挙げてたんですけれども、3つ大きくチャレンジがありまして、1つ音の定義が不自然で、話者と音源が一致してない。2つ目がミックスの作業、PA さんのですね、作業の負担が大きかった。3つ目が視覚的空間的な制約がありました。でこういったチャレンジを、課題を解決するためにサウンドスケープの180度のシステムを使用してステージ前方にスピーカーを配置してリアルな定位と広がりのある音像を実現しました。サウンドスケープって360度スピーカーが必要っていうふうにも思われがちなことが多いんですけど、ニックはこの180度でも十分この課題を、解決するような、現場が作れたよということをで実際にそれをすることによってステージ上の人物やそのメッセージそのものに直接的につながるできるようになって、聴衆体験が向上したということと、あとはミュージシャンのステージ上の位置に合わせて、音源オブジェクトを配置することでミックスエンジニアがフェーダーを上げるだけで理想的なミックスがもうほぼ完成するということで効率も向上しました。またスピーカーが小型で、今回配置したので、照明さんや映像部門との調整も非常に容易になりましたということを伝えてました。
はい。I couldn't have said it better myself. The other part of soundscape is emulated room acoustics, or as we call it, end space. Now we've had end space since the release of Soundscape 8-9 years ago. The ability to create acoustic spaces more fit for music, concert hall emulation, running 144 unique reverberation patterns that are mapped to the speakers to match a real-life concert hall that was measured by one of our clever Germans. We've released a new product called Custom Rooms, which allows us to measure a specific hall and transmit it to another location. So not only do we have the ability to model 9 different concert halls with varying acoustic responses, but we also have the ability to do this without using close microphones. So in this type of application we call a virtual acoustic shell. We're able to hang microphones in the architecture of the room so that it captures all of the noise as it naturally happens and applies the reverberant behavior of a famous concert hall. Great for classical music. Sometimes we do it in demo rooms so that we can kind of raise the energy of the room, especially when people are hanging out wanting to talk. This virtual acoustic shell is a way that a venue can have a dry acoustic response meant for amplified music, but also have the ability to turn on a more acoustic live environment intended for classical music, jazz, maybe even voice lift. An example of this, Guild Hall in New York. It's a fairly small venue with lots of acoustic treatment, which is great for clarity of voice and clarity of low frequency sounds and amplified music. And in this case, they installed Soundscape as a virtual acoustic shell around the stage for the benefit of the musicians. So as they play acoustically, the microphones in the ceiling detect their sound and apply a Vienna concert hall onto their rehearsal, allowing them to play more naturally and freely in the acoustic space that their music deserves. Now, this type of approach has been incredibly costly and very difficult to set up in the past. And at D&B, we've been on a journey to bring this type of solution to more venues. With our Soundscape setup in 2023, the price was still cheaper than most of the competition, but still too much for some of these smaller projects. So we started to develop new products. The 5D amplifier is a 4-channel amp that is a 1/2 rack unit with built-in Dante that allows small speakers for this type of application to be powered with less cost. And then this year, we've released what we call scalable I/O, the ability to buy a smaller Soundscape processor with less inputs and outputs scaled appropriately for a small project, bringing down the price of this type of application by almost 50% in the last 2 years.
こちらは今ニューヨークのギルドホールというところの、事例を紹介していました。2つですね、課題がありまして、演奏空間の音響、演奏する側の、演者さんというか演奏側の方の、音響が音楽に適していなかった。2つ目が高品質な音響を整えるには、それなりに高額な設備投資が必要だったという課題がありました。それをですね、バーチャルアコースティックシェル、仮想音響版の利用をすることによって、解決しました。1つ目はエンスペースによる音響のエミュレーションで、エンスペースの中にあるプリセットの1つですね、ウィーンのコンサートホールのような音響特性を再現することで、演奏者が演奏しやすい環境にしました。で2つ目はアンプの 5D とスケーラブル I/O を導入することによって、より低価格で柔軟なシステム構成が可能になって導入コストを大幅に削減することができましたということを伝えています。
So Guildhall really liked the ability to emulate the sound of the Vienna Concert Hall. It's a world-famous place. The acousticians love that sound, but there are specific applications that want specific acoustic responses, and this brings us back to N-Space custom rooms. The processor has 3 slots where we can upload the file that represents the acoustic response of a specific concert hall. So this is a measurement service where one of our clever Germans will come to a concert hall, measure the acoustics of the space in 3 dimensions, email a file that can be uploaded to the processor to emulate that space anywhere where there's a Soundscape system. A couple of examples from around the world include King's Place, London, 2 concert halls in the same facility. This one is called Hall A or Hall 1. This one is appropriately called Hall B. Primary acoustics here are great for acoustic music, designed specifically for the acoustics of acoustic music, but bands rehearse in the other space, and sometimes when they sell out the tickets here, they want to sell additional seats here to watch it live. So we're able to measure the acoustics here, shown with our custom-made omnidirectional speakers that activate the acoustics of the space. We measure hundreds of microphone positions, build that into the file, where it can be electronically replicated here. And the system can be set up and commissioned in half of a day. So this allows them to choose the acoustic response with our entire venue library, but also to pick their specific acoustics when appropriate. So now they can sell more tickets and have a simulcast event in the venue next door with the same acoustic experience. In fact, if we go to Italy, we have the ability to go Teatro Comunale where we have the ability to measure their primary hall to replicate a secondary space. In this primary hall, it will be closed for a couple of years for a renovation project. All of their shows have to move here while the renovation occurs. So they're able to take the space with them. They're able to keep their trademark acoustic sound, the sound where the musicians are used to hearing it, like you hear now in the room. And as a bonus, we have found a way to keep forever the acoustics of the space before the renovation. So the hope is that when they're finished with the renovation, we can come back, remeasure the acoustics, and have a before and after auralization. What's next? My home state, California. Any other Californians in the room? The Italian guy who lives in California counts. Let's welcome Meyer Sound to the D&B booth. Stanford University, beautiful chamber hall, but they rehearse in another space and they want to take the acoustics with them. So, like the other two examples, we're able to measure the space, emulate it live on microphones as they rehearse, and because it's just a file that is uploaded to a processor, they can use this space as many times as they want, in as many locations as they want. So when they also take the concert outside to the amphitheater, they can have the same acoustics outside while you look at the stars listening to the San Francisco Symphony. In this case, it's a traditional stereo sound system, not traditional. It is our flagship cardioid broadband directivity GSL line array, mixed in stereo, but with surround speakers for the emulated acoustics. An audience of 3,000 people requires 12 speakers around the audience, which is a single amp rack that's about this tall. That way they have the ease and familiarity of mixing in stereo because they don't get a sound check with the orchestra, but the addition of emulated acoustics on top. So far we've talked about transporting a venue's acoustics to a venue's performance, but custom rooms is more interesting than that. Imagine if you're a content creator in an editing suite and you're creating content for a venue, how great would it be to have the acoustics of the venue happening while you create the content? It reduces the amount of time auditioning content, making changes based on the acoustics and the sound system in the room. The ability to use object-based mixing and emulated acoustics to make the content transfer better from a small studio to a large venue. Okay, that's a lot. Arino, you ready?
今はD&B サウンドスケープのエンスペースの中に新しく、備わった新機能なんですけれども、カスタムルームの話をニックはしてくれてました。でカスタムルームっていうのは特定の空間の音響特性を、測定保存し、他の場所でその音響を、再現する機能になっていて、3つニックが事例を話してましたが、その時にもちょっと響きがそれぞれ違ったかなと思うんですけど、そういったものを今やっていました。で1つ目がロンドンにあるキングスプレイスの事例でして、リハーサルの場所と本番の環境で、音響が異なっていました。なので演奏者がパフォーマンスに影響が出るということが課題としてありました。あと2つ目が、売り切れ公演の追加席販売っていうのもなかなか、2つホールはあるけれども音の響きが違うので難しいという現状がありました。でそれをこのカスタムルームを使うことで、本番で演奏するメイン会場の残響をリハーサル室で再現をすることで、本番と同じ環境で演奏者の方は練習ができるようになりました。でまた別会場で同時中継でも本会場と同じ音響体験を提供することができるようになったので、追加席の販売が可能になりましたという話をしていました。 で次がイタリアのテアトロコムナーレという歴史的な場所なんです、劇場なんですけれども、そこが長期改修のために閉鎖することになり、仮設会場で、コンサートなどをする必要があったんですけれども、そこの音響が、なかなか劣っていました。なので今回このカスタムルームを使って元々のテアトロコムナーレの音響を使うことで、長期改修期間中も元の劇場の音響で演奏することが可能になりましたということを言っていました。で最後がスタンフォード大学、アメリカですが、屋内のイベントですと、室内ホールともちろん同等の、音響の再現ができずに、なかなか品質を保つことが難しかったんですけれども、これもそのカスタムルームメインスペースを使うことで、校内にあるリングコンサートホールというところの音響を活用することで、屋外でも非常にいい音質、品質でコンサート、パフォーマンスをすることができたということを伝えています。
What's next? Well, that's different. Royal Albert Hall in London. Already a place with amazing acoustics. Why would they want end space? Well, the most expensive seats, or the most exclusive seats, are the private boxes. Near where this photo is taken is actually the Queen's box, where only the royal family is allowed to be inside. They have their own private entrance to the venue, into the Queen's box. And the problem with the boxes is that you're surrounded with soft walls. You're looking into a beautiful sounding concert hall, but you're hearing no reverberation at all. So there's a beautiful D&B sound system run with Soundscape. But in addition to that, every single one of the boxes has a main speaker to help amplify the PA and at least 2 surround speakers to add the acoustics of a concert hall into the box to help equalize the experience. So even though people have their fancy private box, they get to hear the same experience as sitting out into the concert hall.
これはロンドンにあるロイヤル・アルバートホールという事例なんですけれども、ホール全体は、D&B のスピーカーも使っておりまして、自然な音響を保っているんですけれども、さっき言った女王様とか、そういう方々が座るプライベートボックス席ではカーテンとかに囲まれてしまうので、非常に残響が、小牧先生の小さな部屋の中にいるみたいな音になってしまうという問題がありました。なので、ここで円スペースを使うことで、ボックス内に円スペースをその席のボックス内に、使用することで、まるでそこに壁がないかのような、音環境を提供することができたという話をしていました。
Asheville, North Carolina. This is where I live. This is one of my local venues. Of course, they're all full of D&B. This one has Soundscape. It's part indoor, part outdoor, so the emulated acoustics is of huge value. You can see a Soundscape style PA deployment of a higher quantity of smaller speakers, helps keep the PA more invisible out of sight lines. We're able to place sound objects to represent everybody in the choir and the orchestra. This show was actually Bernstein's Mass, so it also has 16 headset mics with actors that move, sound effects, a jazz band. Every kind of music is built into this show when I took this picture. We have some surround speakers for the surround sound effects and concert hall acoustics, but the audience doesn't only stay inside. They also extend out to the sides where there's a large lawn area, and there's audience behind the venue. One of the beautiful parts of Soundscape is what we call function groups. This is the ability to simultaneously render audio across different types of speaker zones. Most surround sound is built around a single audience area, like a demo room, or a movie theater, or a living room. There's nothing new about surround sound in those types of applications. What is interesting is when we think about how surround sound works in a live event environment where you have multiple listening areas. So in this case, The primary seats get the mains, front fills, subs, and surrounds. They get the primary experience with the concert hall acoustics. And the cheaper seats out in the lawns get different experiences based on the cost to benefit ratio of deploying those sound systems. For example, mono outfill that covers out to the side. There's one on either side for audiences, both sides. That is a mono down mix of all the content. The musicians, the surround sound effects, the emulated acoustics. But it's still a special speaker because this mono outfill has a unique delay time to every musician on stage. Every performer has a unique feed to this speaker so that the sound of their performance is in perfect time with the acoustic sound coming off of the stage. So we have a mono down mix, which is appropriate for those cheaper seats, but still with an improvement over a traditional PA system. For the seats behind the theater, we have a delay line. 5 of these speakers, is it 4? 5. Which is a down mix of objects in a 180 system. We didn't have the money or the time to deploy surround sound speakers for this larger area, which is cheaper seats. But they still have the benefit of proper localization. They still have concert hall acoustics coming at them from the front. So we're able to scale the experience per audience area automatically, and the operator doesn't have to think about this. They just place sound objects, and the math happens automatically in the processor.
こちらはアメリカの屋外イベントの、ケーススタディでした。全体数の観客が前方、サイド、背面に広く分散していて、それぞれの場所で最適な音響を提供できないっていうような状況になっていました。そのため、各スピーカーゾーンにですね、個別の音像処理を実施することで解決を図りました。前方にいるエリアには円スペースを使って空間エミュレーションとオブジェクトベースのリアルな定義を適用させました。一方、サイドのエリアの方にはモノラルではあるんですけれども、ステージ上の各音源、オブジェクトから個々のアウトビルスピーカーまでの距離を個別に計算して、それぞれに固有のディレイタイムを適用することで、音像の定位感を維持した極めてクリアなミックスを、作ることに成功しました。で、後方のエリアにではですね、180度の定位情報を維持したまま、ダウンミックスされた音声を提供することで左右の適切な定位を実現するということをして、それぞれのエリアで違うことを実現したというような事例を話していました。
One more. Disneyland. This is the one in Southern California. They have 3 soundscape systems. 2 of them are theaters, and the third one is here at the Galaxy's Edge Star Wars experience. It's outdoors with projection mapping, and the challenge in this show is that aesthetics are key. Everything is designed for the set, for the look, for the projection. And in typical Disney fashion, the technology has to be invisible. So there is approximately 24 speakers mounted across the mountains, mounted within the Millennium Falcon, and none of them are symmetrically laid out or evenly spaced. They are all placed wherever they were allowed to put a speaker and behind a grill to make it totally invisible. Now, mixing any type of immersive sound in this type of speaker deployment can be extremely difficult because as you move an object across, it changes in level or tonality based on how close it is to speakers, and as the object moves, the density of the speakers is changing. But as I mentioned in the very beginning, the soundscape processor is aware of the position of every speaker, and it's aware of the orientation of every speaker. So when we place a sound object to achieve our goal, the processor does the math for us, allowing them to have sounds that are connected with an element on the projection to automatically match. They place a sound object and it does the math. They can have the concert hall acoustics happening with the movie score, while the sound effects are not processed by InSpace. And they're able to do this quickly and easily while relying on the processor to do the hard work for them. And that's the primary value here, because this park never closes, except for in the middle of the night. So they get 4 hours in the middle of the night, starting at midnight, to begin programming. And by the end of that first day, they need to be most of the way finished. So anytime they can rely on the processor to speed things up, this is a huge advantage.
こちらがですね、アメリカのカリフォルニアにあるディズニーランドスター・ウォーズ・ギャラクシー・エッジというところの、事例なんですけれども、視覚デザインを優先した結果、スピーカーを不規則な位置にしか設置できない中、映画音楽や効果音に高音質な音響体験が求められるという現場でした。そのため D&B サウンドスケープが各スピーカーの位置、距離、向きを認識し、リアルタイムで音像をレンダリングしました。キャラクターの動きに合わせて音も空間内を移動することができましたし、音楽自体はエンスペースでコンサートホールの音響を再現しつつ、効果音自体はドライに配置するということをしました。そういったことで、屋外でも臨場感ある、まるで本当映画のシーンのような演出が可能になったという事例でした。はい、Thank you, Nick。ここまでがニックの事例の紹介のところになるんですけれども、何かニックに質問したいことがある方いらっしゃったりしますか？もし質問したいことがありましたら終わった後にですね日本語で全然大丈夫です。英語を訳しますのでぜひお気軽にお声掛けいただければと思います。ありがとうございました。ニック。
Thank you. I have one more thank you. You and Nori have been so helpful. Craig and Ayumi have been showing me around Japan, but there's one more group of people that is the most important for the demo room. None of this happens because I talk about it.
ありがとうございます。